all of us. Who had fun that first hour? Mark, George, thanks again for your stories, for sharing, for your hearts, for letting us see, as Octavio talked about, seeing all of our good souls, beautiful souls, for letting us see your souls. And once again, for everyone being here. So give it up for yourselves. Forging a heroically confident.
Let's get to work. So Michael was very, very excited about doing a one-on-one today. So I'm very, very excited about doing a one-on-one with you. Good to see you guys. I don't know about you, but I went home early last night. And what's up, brother? Good to see you, Anthony. 86, 92, bringing it back. Let's go. We train heroes, as you might have heard. This is one of the, I'm going to intersplice some of the keynote slides I use. We'll be talking about. But today we're going to talk about how to forge a heroically confident mind 101, so you can activate your potential, fulfill your destiny, and change the world with us. There's the old school top 10 big ideas that we're going to go keynote style on, and we'll walk them through real quick. I'd like to tell you what we're going to talk about it, tell you what we talked about. But we're going to do a little intro. I'll talk about the difference between a keynote and the 101 in the workshop. We're going to define forge. Everybody here knows how I'm going to frame that up, roughly speaking. We're going to talk about your new heroic phone number, which one of my new dear friends, elite military officer, used, and I just love it. We're going to lean into that. We're going to define what it means to be heroic. The hero gets a guide, and the hero gets a lot of buddies, don't they? Always fun to be here with you. We're going to define courage. Dr. Nate Zinzer. How many of you have heard us talking about the confident mind over the last X weeks? A lot of you. Cool. So there's that was one of the inspirations for this. I'm going to share my journal that I'm doing these days. We're going to help you over the course of the weekend create your own heroic, confident journaling process. But we'll talk about how courage is defined by Dr. Z and by me. Then we're going to talk about Dr. Z's #1 way to cultivate a heroically confident mind by mining your past for hero bars, looking at your present, creating affirmations, and looking forward to the future. Then we're going to talk about how I how I think we can best cultivate our confidence. IDWISYIWD. Not allowed to share if you already heard me share this, but pop quiz. Anyone guess what that means? It's the affirmation of do what you say you're going to do. You want to build trust? I do what I say I will do. Slide coming up. Do you? This is how we're going to forge that heroically confident mind, that intense trust, etc. And then the sixth idea we're going to talk about is what do you really, 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 really want? Healthy, flourishing, heroic people have targets. We're teleological. I have goosebumps as I say that. And I think of the Ralph Waldo Emerson, always, 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 always do the thing you're afraid to do, and the death of fear is certain. You'll find new things to be afraid of, but you'll be afraid of one less thing. Then the seventh thing, all right, what do you want? Then what price do you need to pay? And then 10x it, whoop it, we'll talk about all that. Who will you need to be in order to make that desired future a reality? And again, what's so fun about this weekend is we're able to tee this up and then walk you through how to do it. With our heroic workshop instructors / coaches being able to match up with you, etc. And then #8 is what's important now? What's important now? What's important now? What's important now? Let's go, let's go, let's go. #9 features the extent of my graphical abilities. Mike and I typically do these types of keynotes together. He's so busy, I'm so busy, we didn't have a chance to do that. Now I have reasonably good design aesthetic. I like to think, if I can be modest, but I need Michael to make it just unbelievably great. So the extent of my graphics today will be emojis. So today we have, he does do it all, by the way, folks. We'll have some emojis here. We're going to talk about the past versus the present tense. I'll tell a story about Isaiah. Isaiah, you in here right now, or are you out hustling? There's Isaiah. Isaiah and Nat came out, visited me on the old Johnson Ranch, blessed my tree pull-up bar with some pull-ups, great form, guys. And we're going to talk about I love poo, I love puke, and I love that nerd emoji. Is that a good emoji or what? Then #10, tell me who your heroes are. Is a slide we're going to present from LeBaron. LeBaron, you here? Hanging out, all right, cool. Go LeBaron. We got fans. Tell me who your heroes are, Warren Buffett says, and I'll tell you who you will be and who you will become. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about tell me who you're going to call. I was blessed to spend a considerable amount of time with one of, again, the most elite military officers, Navy SEAL, commanding officer, who did a lot of work with Buds and other places. And I sat down and, hey, what is it about the guys that get through? You know, we'll talk about that. The kind of spoiler word is love, selflessness. That's what he's looking for. In the crucible, do they show up for something bigger than themselves? But he also told me about a visualization exercise he walked the Buds candidates through after they made it all the way up to Hell Week. He'd spend 20 minutes doing a visualization, and then he'd have them imagine making a phone call. I'm going to have you imagine making a phone call. It's going to be a nice compliment to our quick trip to hell. I think those are the two most powerful exercises I know. But then we're going to end this up with your sacred vow. Many of you guys familiar with my sacred vow? So I've gotten a lot of feedback on that, and many of you have created it. We're going to help you create your own sacred vow. It'll be yours, idiosyncratically different than mine, of course, but that'll be kind of the culmination of what we're doing. Is all right, hero has strength for two. For whom will you have strength? And let's concretize that. Make that sacred vow. I've committed to mine. However many days I've had the app or used the app, over 750 days now. That's the overview. So intro keynote versus workshop. So look, now I've kind of become the keynote guy, right? So every single thing that I do is objective, 7 objectives, right? Everything we do, basic training in the app, the coach certification program, the workshop training we just did, Arete, the book, it's 7 objectives. Distilling ancient wisdom, modern science, practical tools into those 7 objectives that, again, I'm really proud that we've scientifically studied the coach program, the app, and there's a coherence to it that we're really proud of. But I'm not going to go through that today, other than this quick sequence. Everybody here knows our 7 objectives, or you wouldn't be here. If you're watching the live stream, check out basic training, obviously, check out the book, etc. But you got to know the ultimate game. You got to know that that game is challenging and forge anti-fragile confidence. And you got to optimize your big 3, energy, work, and love. Make today a masterpiece. Today's the day to move from theory to practice to mastery. Master yourself. Did you know willpower outpredicts IQ by a factor of 2 for academic performance and everything else? And there's an art and science to behavioral change. Here it is. You all have heard me say that more than once, and now you have your own idiosyncratic way to say it. Heroic coaches and workshop instructors. And you got to dominate the fundamentals, put on your socks. And all that leads us to activating your superpower. We actually are going to talk about that more today at the very end of our time together. Now, the one-on-ones, of course, are 10 big ideas. It's been a while. I'm pretty sure this is number 51. We're going to put this into the app, and we have 50 in there right now on a range of subjects. Again, coaches, workshop instructors, you've watched most, if not all of those. But if you're watching this for the first time, there are 50 of these one-on-ones in the app you can check out. A few by Alexander. We've got one by Cal Newport, Alden Mills, etc. So, and really important note, real quick, I'm going to talk about some business stuff. So I got to say this. This is one of the reasons why I dropped out of law school, to avoid saying things like this. But I have to put this up because we have an open crowdfunding right now. And anytime I talk about things in the future, which I'm going to talk more about on Sunday when I go into depth on my journaling and talk about how we're going to change the world together. But I just have to throw this up. And I'm going to talk about forward-looking things. Those things are not certain, blah, 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 blah. This checks the box, and I'm allowed to say blah, 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 blah. Well, I say that. Attorney has given us the blessing. And if you'd like to invest, we'd be honored to welcome you to our heroic investor community. How many of you are investors in here right now? Oh, bless you guys. Tears in my eyes. We will remain anonymous, but just got another big support from one of our existing big investors. So thank you, bless you. With 3,000 investors, 75 countries around the world, from $100 to $1 million plus. It's something we're really proud of, that we are, trying to address a lot of issues in the world, including economic disparity and injustice. And it's hard for individuals often to invest in companies like ours. So we take a lot of pride in having a business that is owned by our community. You can learn more at wefunder.com/heroic. On Sunday, I'm going to talk more about our forward-looking vision and how we together as a movement and public benefit corporation can change the world. We're doing a Zoom on June 8th that I'm really excited about, et cetera. Now with that, let's get to work. Number 1, time to define the forge. So we all know activation energy, right? 212 degrees, 451 degrees. One thing becomes another thing, but nothing happens until you hit that activation energy point. Want to boil water? 200 degrees won't do it. Warm, but it's not transformative. 210 won't do it. 211 won't do it. 212 degrees is what you need to hit if you want to activate and go from one thing to another thing. 451 degrees is what you need, of course, to ignite paper on fire. But that's not enough. You need to do that, but then we need to go even higher. We need to go into the forge. If you want to forge a sword, you need to go over 2,000 degrees. He's going to remain anonymous, but as I mentioned, new dear friend, elite military officer, he was given a talk to his alma mater, and I shared this in a +1 recently, right? And he chose to share the hero's journey with them, and then he said, here's your new heroic phone number. And this is a national championship winning team that just lost a game. And he shared this with them, and then this is what was on their whiteboard as they went into their next game. So 212-451-2000 is our direct line to our daimon. That is your way to call bat phone style your daimon. You need to flip the switch, turn up the heat. And I had some people come up to me and break conversations over the last couple of days. And one of the things that they celebrated in us is the willingness to go all in. There's a certain coolness to being aloof, to being a bit cynical these days, and the willingness to truly activate and turn up the heat, staying grounded, energized, tranquility. We're taking deep breaths. We're blinking when we're looking at people, right? But another conversation. We're grounded, but we're all in, you know? And this is Joseph Campbell. Sri Ramakrishna says, don't approach enlightenment unless you approach enlightenment like a man whose hair or woman whose hair is on fire approaches a pond. Ancient ideals that we want to bring to our modern lives. It's the dojo question. Are you going in to go through the motions, or are you going for mastery? But we need to be honest with ourselves. You think you're at an 8, you're really at a 2 kind of thing. And then that quick trip to hell. I still don't know a more powerful way to wake ourselves up. Now, when I did that keynote for SOCOM, the U.S. Special Operations Command, General Fenton, 4-star general who runs it. Again, 70,000 Special Forces operators and their command support personnel report to one guy, General Fenton. Admiral McRaven was that guy before he retired. Getting to know, General Fenton and spending some time with him, and we'll talk more about it on Sunday and all the other things. But he invites me out to do this talk on resiliency. I talk about anti-fragility. At the end of it, he says, hey, Brian, tell him about that quick trip to hell. That was what he wanted me to share to his 300 top commanding officers to wake them up. Some of the highest praise I've ever received in my life is his right-hand guy coming up to me afterwards and saying, you just kicked my butt. All right, let's go. So we've all done that, right? How many of you have done the quick trip to hell exercise, right? You're at the end of your life. We're all going to get to that point. Memento mori, wake up. This isn't a dress rehearsal. You're sitting there on your deathbed. And I have my brother, by the way, in my mind every single time I think about this. I think of the last, day 2, 3 of his life. I'm on his deathbed, holding his hand, reading to him my gratitude letter to him that I shared with you, right? It's in the book. Tears in my eyes, goosebumps. I can feel, where he was at that state and how thin he was, and just can feel that. It's a state. Hopefully we'll get to that point. We may just go, but we're going to be there. And at that point in our lives, when we are on our inevitable deathbeds, what are we going to see? Who will we have become? And that vision of us on our deathbeds, not closing the gap consistently. And again, never perfectly, right? I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Sorry, we're not going to be the first perfect human beings. But we don't wake up. We don't start activating. We don't start closing that gap more consistently. End of that life, you're going to feel that regret. And you want to feel it. This Navy SEAL guy we're going to talk about at the end of our talk, there are consequences to your choices. Then when he was talking to the guys going through Hell Week, he said, look, there are consequences. If you ring the bell, you're going to experience that. And one of his things was, we're not honest to young men. Yeah, I love you, but there are consequences to your choices that are not in integrity with your highest ideals. You want to be aware of that. And that person, that version of you that you could have been coming into your room right at the end of your life as that most radiantly confident, energized, and beautiful, loving human being, right at that moment, you can't do anything about it. Some would say that is one version of hell. I take that. That's an exercise I do often. It's kind of our extension of the Stoic. Reflect on your death. Memento mori in a very activated way. And again, not in a despairing way, but in an exhilarating way that we can do something about it right now. Another slide later will be, it's unfortunate that I have waited as long as I have and still need to continue to consistently close the gap. It's unfortunate that you probably have left some on the table over the last X years and decades, but it's unforgivable, Seth Godin says, to wait any longer. Now you know better. Perfect. Let's do our best to step up. That's the forge. That's 2,000 degrees. So now let's define heroic. Anytime, this is the keynote slides. Anytime I'm doing a keynote, I do my little intro. Hey, thanks for being here. And I should have thanked you for being here. I appreciate you guys being here. The last 3 days were unbelievable. The 100+ heroic workshop instructors, it was just next level, sacred. This is a time for our movement right now to feel the ripples going out. So thank you. And my apologies for skipping that important part of my introduction here. But after I get through that, I always throw this up because I got to frame up what it means to be heroic, right? And then how one can be heroic. So these are a few slides from my typical talk. My arm looks so bare, right? Where's everything else going on heroic there? Well, there we go. My life's mission and now 3 tattoos. There's 2 of them there. And of course, added anti-fragile confidence after that. But I always say, look, anti-fragile hero, I'm sitting there. I did a quick 5-minute sauna today and before my little 1-minute cold plunge, after my 15 minutes of training, after my deep work preparing for this. And I look down, I'm like, look, get to go hang out with these, beautiful heroes. Hero, I see a world in which 51% of humanity is flourishing by the year 2051. And then again, I know you all know what the word hero means. Anybody else, I ask? No one has ever known. Not one person has ever known what the word hero actually means. So I always go there. Whether it's, on the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, I'm talking to these true heroes. They don't know what the word hero means. So part of my job with them is you are heroic. And I told them, you don't need to wait until some wartime medal. The moment you committed, Statue of David committed, to serving me and my family and our freedoms and the world's freedoms, you were heroic right in that moment. So just reminding people that you are already heroic. You've been heroic. You are capable of being heroic. Let's go. The word hero, of course, means protector. It isn't tough guy, killer, bad guys, protector. The hero lives for something bigger than themselves. Love is our secret weapon. A hero, of course, has strength for 2. This is a slide. Michael designed this one. You see how much better this slide looks? This is a slide Michael designs. That's a slide. That's actually a slide Michael designed too. These are all Michael's to do. That's how it's done. Let's go. This is a slide we created for Notre Dame. That's Notre Dame football stadium. We're blessed to work with Notre Dame. We'll talk more about it on Sunday. Day 1 preseason, Michael and I are flying to Chicago, driving for an hour and a half to go to South Bend. And day 1, working with the team, 3-hour workshop on their first day of preseason. And the vision is, let's go forge men of excellence on and off the field to go win a national championship. So we threw this slide together for them. You guys, this is going to be in my talk. Strength for 2, strength for your team, right? Strength for your 80,795 people that are showing up in your stadium to support you. And again, I was raised Catholic, so working with Notre Dame has a special meaning for me. The only football game other than the Super Bowl Emerson and I have ever watched on TV as one of the breaks in his chess tournaments was Notre Dame. How cool is this? We get to go out and serve Notre Dame and the 8,210,000 people, Notre Dame football players that are counting on you to go out and be your best. Forge the strength for 2. And then I always follow it up with, well, how do we show up heroically? And again, you guys all know the Seek Second Tattoo and see the name of our book, Arete. Again, if you ask the ancient Stoics how to live a good life, they'd answer you in a single word. That's become my way of describing what Arete is. The Marcus Aurelius Epictetus, those great Stoic philosophers. We directly translate that, of course, as virtue or excellence, but being your best self, closing the gap, moment to moment to moment. This is always a fun slide to throw in. And then this tattoo that showed up in Stoicism for Dummies. How many of you know Tom Morris? Unbelievable guy. If you haven't seen his stuff with Michael and the coach program, check it out. I love him. 2 PhDs from Yale. wrote Philosophy for Dummies, which, by the way, I got 25 years ago. So 25 years ago, I'm like, oh, Philosophy for Dummies. I mean, let's go. I want to dedicate my life to understanding, I'm a lover of wisdom. I got to read that. Tom Morris wrote that. So he just came out with Stoicism for Dummies around the holidays, and he threw in my tattoo in the chapter on Arete, which of course is the central theme of Stoicism, with the figure 8-1, a not so subtle reminder that virtue matters. That's always a fun slide to throw in. And then, whenever I'm doing a talk, you got to establish a little gravitas and, let everybody know what we're doing. Coach Freeman, Notre Dame, he's like, yeah, definitely say this and this and this. So real quick here, how do we show up heroically? We live with Arete. So we have these slides. We've been blessed to serve some of the most elite performers at the highest levels of sports. Then I go through military, then I do some other things. But I always start with this slide. That's Sean Casey in the locker room of, New York Yankees before their final game of the season last year when he was their hitting coach. And he hit record on his iPhone to send me the message that he had for the players that day. Now, the first 10, 12 minutes of those 18 minutes, I have never heard anyone use more F-bombs in that short a period of time than Sean Casey talking about the pitcher they're going to face and all this stuff. It was fantastic. Then he stops and you hear some shuffling. He's like, all right, guys, I got something for you. Right? My buddy wrote a book, works with Navy SEALs, does this, does that. It's called Arete. You are Yankees because you live with Arete. And to me, that's, you live with excellence. It means virtue. It means excellence. And that to me is the most visceral way to capture what it means to live with excellence, what it means to live with Arete. And then he challenged them, hey, off season, go live off the field with Arete. Go be the best version of yourself in your relationships. Come back stronger next year, etc. Coach Spo. I didn't know that he was the highest paid coach in North American history until I found out that he decided, while he's creating a culture of excellence with the Miami Heat, to buy Arete for his team for the holidays. But anyway, that's the frame. Defining heroic, and then how you live heroically. You live with Arete. You close the gap moment to moment to moment. And the moment you do that, you are heroic. You don't need to wait until you get everything checked off on your destiny bucket list, etc. But then the heroic quest. 3 things that go into a hero's journey, roughly. First, there's the call to adventure. You either answer it or you don't. If you don't, you're going to suffer, full stop. That gap is there. That whisper in your head of you're capable of more, you're capable of more, you're capable of more. That's the call to adventure. I'm in Finding Joe, obviously, right? The phone ringing, I'm the guy telling the story of there's a phone ringing, you better answer it, because if you don't, you will suffer. And Gay Hendricks says it's either a feather stroke and you pay attention, or it's a sledgehammer and your life gets destroyed, and then you come back. That's part 1, call to adventure. Nothing happens until you answer the call. Part 2 is the hero gets a guide. Harry Potter gets Dumbledore. The hero gets buddies. Harry Potter gets Hermione and Ron. We all get one another. And very importantly, the hero gets dragons. Now, everybody wants to think everybody else should get dragons, but I should have an easy life, right? So the hero gets a guide, gets buddies, and gets dragons. Harry Potter, Dumbledore, and all the other teachers, and then Hermione and Ron. But the important theme that we're going to come back to today is the hero becomes a guide. And then the guide becomes the guide to the next generation of heroes. It's Harry Potter 101. Harry got Dumbledore and Hermione and Ron. They're young. They really don't know what they're doing. They do enough reps. They go on enough heroic adventures. They answer the call. They demonstrate the wisdom, discipline, love, and courage, such that what happens? They're the ones training the Hogwarts students, and it's only through them coming together that they're able to defeat their dragon, Voldemort, and change their virtual, their world, win the battle between vice and virtue. So the hero becomes a guide, is the return, the boon. You come back with the boon, right? And that's often the hardest part. How do you reintegrate into the normal world again? But the thing that is your ultimate boon is your transformed consciousness. And in our language, it's you becoming the guide to your families, to your communities, etc. That's the heroic quest. And don't forget, again, rule number 1 of a good hero's journey is it's supposed to be challenging. We got to go from being fired up to fundamentally changed. It's not enough to get inspired over the weekend, here, and then forget that you got to go back and do all the hard work. And again, this is a slide from my talk. After my special Operations Command talk, I was invited to give basically a similar talk to Naval Special Warfare's top 50 Navy SEAL commanders. I haven't shared that publicly until I did with our group of instructors. But I talked to them and they had me come out and talk about how to forge anti-fragile confidence. And I started that talk by laughing and saying, look, I've learned 90% of what I've learned from you, so I'll make it, explicit. But this was the slide I added to that one. Your story that you shouldn't be facing unexpected obstacles is arguably the greatest obstacle to you conquering them heroically. Remember rule number 1. It's supposed to be challenging. We're going to come back to that theme. But know this, we train heroes who become guides, who train heroes, who become guides, who train heroes, and that process continues. And that is how we will change the world. I'm going to give some more tactical details to that, the vision of how do we create a world in which 51% of humanity is flourishing by the year 2051? What are we going to do by 2030? What are we going to do this year, over the next 3 years? I'll talk more about that on Sunday, but I repeat the sequence here. We train heroes who become guides, who train heroes who become guides. Imagine the generational impact that we can have as you do that with your kids, with your community, and we're able to take these ideals out into the world. Now, 1, 2, established, forge, heroic, defined. It's time to define courage. We're going to do it in 2 different ways, Dr. Z and me. So Dr. Nate Zinser's The Confident Mind is literally my all-time favorite mental toughness book now. And the mental toughness collection of philosopher's notes is something I'm really proud of. Ancient wisdom, modern science, mental toughness. Leadership and purpose and all these things. But those are my top 3 favorite categories. And this is now my all-time favorite book. So Dr. Nate Zinser briefly was at West Point. Jason, you here?
Over there.
He was trained by Bob Rotella, who I love. How Champions Think is one of my all-time favorite books. Check out that note. I've read it 30 times. My own philosopher's note. It's phenomenal. So Bob Rotella trained Dr. Nate Zinser, who taught 3 generations of cadets at West Point, including Jason, when he went to West Point. He's legit, and he's worked with elite sports performers as well, and this book is phenomenal, especially the first 3, 4, 5 chapters in which he walks through some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. But again, all-time favorite mental toughness book. Now, he defines confidence as, quote, a sense of certainty about your ability, which allows you to bypass conscious thought and execute unconsciously. So the confident mind, the individual can be their best when it matters most. It's kind of John Wooden's competitive greatness. We have a love of the battle and you know how to show up as your best when it matters most. Really powerful concept. We're going to talk about how he recommends us cultivating that ability. Now, Alexander and I were talking about this on the drive over. Kids stayed with Nama. My goodness, it's a quiet car when 2 young kids are in the car. Love my kids, and that was nice. We're talking about it, and his sense of confidence is very, it's amazing, and it's very moment driven. So in the moment of performance, can you show up as your best, which is unbelievably important to win that particular game. Our sense of confidence, and this is Alexander's term, well, yeah, we come at it from, you got to win the ultimate game. Right? So how do we cultivate that level of confidence to go with the in-the-moment confidence? And of course, we're anti-fragile confidence defined by me/us is not just resiliency. This was the first slide in my talk for General Fenton and SOCOM. They wanted me to talk about resiliency. This was my first slide with a little more stuff on it. I crossed it out and said, no, we're talking about anti-fragility. I know you all know it, but live streamers, you can be fragile. When life hits you, you break. You can be resilient. Life hits you, you get knocked down a little bit, but you bounce back faster than most. Much better than being fragile. And we're all fragile at times. We're all resilient at times. But what we want to be is anti-fragile, where literally life hits us, we get stronger. Nassim Taleb, of course, is the great intellectual who gave us that word. Didn't exist before he coined the word. Awesome. Fragile, resilient, anti-fragile. The metaphor he uses is the wind extinguishing a candle, but the same wind, very importantly, the same challenge, the same obstacle, fueling a fire. And every single time I give this talk, whether it's the Naval Special Warfare or SOCOM or Toronto FC or all the other Notre Dame when I give it, the question is, which are you? when life hits you, how are you responding? Is that wind extinguishing you and you're going off the rails and doing all the, invite the clown to town behaviors? Or do you use that exact same pressure to get better? You go into the gym. Are you lifting styrofoam weights in that gym and wishing it wasn't hard? Or are you realizing that your life's challenges are the very things that are going to make you stronger? General Fenton said, one of the reasons he invited me out to do that stuff is it's easy to say. It's a nice bumper sticker, but that we bring it off the bumper sticker and we operationalize it, which is what we're going to talk about today, and of course, everything we do. So there's the anti-fragile package I use as a metaphor as well that you all have heard me describe before. What are you? Fragile? Handle me with care. I'm going to break. Heroic gods, don't throw me around. Or are you anti-fragile? And what do we say? Bring it on. I want the challenges that are going to make me stronger. And then when we face them, what do? Do we avoid them or do we approach them? That bring it on idea we're going to talk about when we get into the poop emoji and the puke emoji will be fun. And then, of course, confidence etymologically is intense trust. And there's only one way to cultivate intense trust in any relationship. And that is you have to do what you say you will do. And the way I always frame it up when I'm giving a talk is if I said I would be here at a certain time and I don't show up, would you trust me? You may give me a pass and maybe something went wrong, but if I did it again, would you trust me? And the obvious answer is no. And then my follow-on is, then you shouldn't. I'm not trustworthy. So then the question is, if you want to cultivate trust in the most important relationship in your life, which is with yourself, are you doing the things you say you will do? Because every single time you don't, and again, no one's going to be perfect, but every single time you don't, there's a gap. Abraham Maslow, who you think of as this warm and fuzzy guy, that guy was intense. If you've read some of his quotes that I've shared in different contexts, he says every single time you leave that gap, there's an imprint on your consciousness. So this is the way I complement Dr. Z's work, who's all about the mind we're going to talk about in a moment. Past, present, future, getting your mind right. But you better be cultivating the trust by doing the things you know you can do. And then note you can't surge trust. That's an Admiral McRaven idea. In one of his books on military aphorisms for leadership, Wisdom from the Bullfrog, I think it was, right? Yeah, let's go. We'll go with that. 18 aphorisms. One of them is you can't surge trust. So I'm a leader and I want trust in my people. Well, in the moment you need it, you can't surge it. You either built it or you didn't. So when life hits you, you either built the trust in yourself to handle any obstacle and to be the fire that uses it as fuel, or you didn't. It's like if I want you to go out and do a Iron Man, well, yeah, I hope you trained for that because that's going to be a challenge for you. You can't surge trust. So again, resilience, anti-fragility, mentioned that fact of SOCOM. And then same talk on, this similar talk with Naval Special Warfare. My joke, I'm writing a letter that I'm going to share next week. Brief history of Heroic and a quick look at how we're going to forge an anti-fragile business and change the world together. I'll talk about some of those things on Sunday, but the joke in the letter is that's a big trident they gave me as a thank you. It was not a carry-on. It's like, thanks guys, this is awesome. Staring at me from my desk. Let's go, hero. Once again.
It was Wisdom from the Bullfrog. You got it.
Good. Yeah. I've always got my my second brain back there. All right. So we define confidence, Dr. Z and me, right? In the moment, and then kind of the ultimate game. And now let's look at Dr. Z's tips to cultivate a confident mind. He says that's the psi symbol, right? I always write that for psychological. So psychological bank accounts. He tells us you need to make deposits into your psychological bank account, and you do it on 3 time horizons. You do it on the past, you do it in the present, and you do it in the future. So I journal now based on this whole model, my past, my present, my future. A 1-page journal, flip the page, you got me on the back. This is what we're going to help you create. And I'll go into detail on mine on Sunday. You will have your own by the time I walk you through mine. But he tells us that you have 3 time frames on which you got to strengthen your mind. Past, present, future. The past, we got to look at his exercise is think of 10 things, and I have goosebumps right now. 10 things you're most proud of. Look back at your life. We would call them hero bars. In our, as you know, Heroic Workshop instructors, we begin our training with this. What are your 10 things you're most proud of? The hero bars, and they got a really cool process to do it. Is it 10 or you guys do a different number?
10, yep.
10, amazing. They've got a really cool process of index cards, what you did, what virtues you embodied. It's amazing. And then the idea is if you can do that, then you can do the thing that you aspire to do. So this exercise is huge. 10 things. We'll walk you through this throughout the weekend. 10 things you're most proud of. I've done it with Emerson. I've got a list of his 10 things he's most proud of. Oh, well, you know, I won the state championship. I became a professional chess player winning the San Antonio City Championship. I got to this, I did this, I did this. Boom, that's like you. You want to know you at your absolute best in the past. That's what a confident human being does. The insecure, fragile human being is constantly ruminating on the things that didn't go the way they want. Now, again, we all do it, but you got to shift it. You got to make psychological deposits into your confidence bank account. Otherwise, when life gets hard, you're going to think you're the one that folds, not the one that knows how to eat those challenges like energy bars. And oh, by the way, your hero bar is made through blood, sweat, and tears. It's salty. So when you know who you were at your best, you connect it to the challenges you face. When you face new challenges, you can say to yourself, bring it on. I don't like the feeling still. I still don't, but I love pain, uncertainty, and hard work. And I know that I have what it takes to meet any and all of life's challenges. Your past hero bars. Then the present is affirmations. We'll talk about this more on Sunday too. I used to have a lot of ambivalence and frankly, a very strong allergy to affirmations because it's often framed up in ways that are a bit unscientific, to put it diplomatically. And he is a scientist, he's a PhD. So he sold me on the self-fulfilling prophecy nature of affirmations. So now I'm all in. If you look at my targets in the app, nearly all of them are now affirmations. And the affirmation is personal, I or we, present tense, am, or whatever the present tense is, and powerful. So personal, present, powerful. We're going to talk about that more, but that's how you do it in the present. So now I'm like one big affirmation machine, you know, like boom, I love doing burpees. I love dominating my protocol. I do what I say I will do is an affirmation. All day, every day will help you get clarity on your affirmations. And then you take the power from the past and what you're building in the present, and you get clarity on your future. We look forward and we see that ideal future. And we have this robust confidence that we know we can do what we aspire to do. So we'll also help you get clarity on your vision. I'll walk through ours. And I already shared briefly the journal. I'll go into that. I'll zoom in on that. And that'll be a lot of fun on Sunday. So again, one of the targets for this weekend is helping you create your version of that heroically confident mind journal. Live streamers, people watching us on recording, you'll get certain snippets of how we walk people through. We'll have a workbook to support you. Obviously, we'll be able to go more in depth with everybody here. So that's Dr. Z's #1 frame to cultivate a confident mind. Mind your past, your present, and your future. Make those psychological deposits. Mine is simple. I do what I say I will do, period. Again, confidence equals intense trust. How do you create confidence, intense trust in any relationship? You do what you say you will do. And you can't search trust. So DWYSYWD, do what you say you will do, which is the second leadership principle that Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner tell us are essential for effective leadership. And by the way, their book is called The Leadership Challenge because leadership is a challenge. It's supposed to be hard. It's the call to greatness. You got to eat those challenges like fuel, right? Energy bars. So DWYSYWD as an affirmation is I do what I say I will do. To spell it out, I do what I say I will do. Do you? And that's again a bit of a playful saying I'm perfect at that. But my gosh, I get goosebumps yet again of I do what I say I will do. That has become my mantra. Like that's literally +1 coming soon. I do what I say I will do. 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 Close the gap. Close the gap. Close the gap. Make the positive psychological deposits rather than the withdrawals, Abraham Maslow style, etc. I know no more powerful way to build confidence than that. And frankly, Dr. Z's thing is you gotta squeeze all your potential out. So you gotta have your mind right. And that's really important in the moment, you know what I mean? But you're gonna have you at your peak and not. And the ultimate game is much more important than whatever game we want to get you performing at a high level on. I know that George shared her story of, boom, got hit. Part X is coming in, taking over the airwaves, perfect, reverse indicator. But then she was able to alchemize it because she has cultivated this ability to put the tools into practice. I do what I say will do. I will practice my philosophy. The worse I feel, the more committed I am to my protocol. This is how we do what we need to do. Now, remember Yoda, Phil Stutz's #1 tip on how to build emotional stamina. This is a slide from the talk as well. You can tell it got beautiful again. Thank you, Michael. This is a basic image, but Phil Stutz. You guys have all seen Stutz. Cool. If you haven't yet, check it out. 3 aspects of reality. That's a post from Cristiano Ronaldo. We added this to the presentation when I talked to Toronto FC. We figured Ronaldo is pretty respected in the soccer field. Maybe we'll drop this slide in as a little, hey, pay attention to him. He posted this when he was going through some challenges. Pain, uncertainty, constant work. The 3 aspects of reality that are never going away. You want to be exonerated. I want to be exonerated. Good luck with that. Now, I've done 451 one-on-one sessions with Phil. I added this morning. Michael, we were talking yesterday in a little Q&A post-workshop training. He's hit 212. How cool is that? So I've worked with Phil now one-on-one for over 7 years, twice a week for 2 of those years. Michael's worked with them for 5 years. So it's the first time that he's done a 2-generation thing, you know? You got me and then Michael, of course. It's exciting. I mean, the more I think about that, I'm like, yeah, baby, let's go, let's go, let's go. But Stutz, emotional stamina, you've heard me tell the story. One of our first sessions, Phil said, you have a lot of emotional stamina. It was like session number 2 or 3. Right at the end of our conversation, you have a lot of emotional stamina, perhaps more than I've ever seen, he said. And I'm like, amazing. I have no idea what that is, but that's awesome. Let's go, you know? Next session, first question, what is emotional stamina? And again, you all here know what the answer to that is, which is your ability to handle pain, uncertainty, and hard work and show up and do what needs to get done. Follow-on question, how do I get more of it? So how can I cultivate more of what you call emotional stamina? This is what became anti-fragile confidence. And his answer to that question and what we do in response to life's inevitable pain, uncertainty, and constant work is the most important slide in this talk. It's the most important slide in any talk I give. I believe it's I'm proud of a lot of things we've done. I think the ultimate game in looking at vice and virtue and eudaimonia via Arete, intrinsic, extrinsic is really important and differentiated in the world. That's not talking about this. I think that the other ideas we have are powerful and salient, but I think this is the most important thing that we teach and need to embody. He told me that if you want more emotional stamina, to use our language now, if you want more anti-fragile confidence, you got to know the worse you feel, the more committed you need to be to your protocol. The worse you feel, the more committed you need to be to your protocol. Again, what did the old me do? I would get hit and then I would go off the rails, right? I do all the things I know I shouldn't be doing. I get tears in my eyes feeling into that version of me. Now, I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good at, I get hit, boom, this is it. I'm doubling down. And again, we got to take this off the bumper sticker. And the power that happens when you get 2, 5, 7, 9, 11% better at this is life-changing. This, I believe, is the greatest gift that we have the ability to give to ourselves and to the world. And again, the greater the challenges, the more committed you need to be to your protocol. Now, very important note, that presupposes you have a protocol. And it begs a couple of questions. What's your protocol? Slide for the Naval Special Warfare and SOCOM. When I'm talking to their top commanders, have you trained your warriors to know their protocols? They have protocols for everything on the battlefield. But have you trained them how to win the ultimate game of life? How to flourish? How to optimize their energy, their work, and their love through basic fundamental practices? Now, the way that I bring this point home on the high level to someone who's never heard of our work before is, look, it's just a checklist. Protocols are checklists. And then I say, oops, think of a pilot. How many of you flew to get here? Nearly everybody. Bless you. Thank you. I took a 35-minute drive. Thank you for booking it here. We'll give one in Chicago next time. Whole other conversation, by the way. We're planning a version of the workshop training in Athens, Greece in the fall. at Aristotle's Lyceum, basically. Would that be amazing to study eudaimonia via Arete and how to affect change? It started with our international community, 13 countries for the heroic workshop instructor training, but many people internationally couldn't come. So we're going to make it kind of a really special 3-day workshop and then 3-day kind of VIP or whatever kind of tour of Athens, longer chat. But if you flew to get here, would you have gotten on the plane if you knew the pilot didn't go through a checklist? Chris, where are you, sir? Back. Chris Duhon. Chris is a pilot, Air Force, won the highest Medal of Honor, which he would never tell you about, but I will tell you about in the Air Force. Truly heroic. What he did, putting his life on the line to protect his, gives me emotional, to protect his fellow warriors.
And not all the checklist.
Yeah. Dude. Unbelievable. Checklist pretty important, Chris. Pretty important. Here we go. You'd never get on a plane if your pilot didn't go through a simple checklist. For a simple reason that planes crash less often when you do a simple basic checklist, right? Well, as I like to playfully say, you shouldn't get a surgery unless your surgical team has a checklist, because surgical teams that don't have checklists kill 43% more people than those who have checklists. Simple things. My first name is this. We're operating on this side of the body. Very basic things. Atul Gawande, the checklist manifesto, check it out. And then, of course, warriors, I already mentioned, on and off the battlefield. Athletes, this is what we're going to talk to. Whenever I talk to sports teams, this is what I talk about. Look, and again, most of them have basic checklists, but you need to go deeper. And this is how we train heroes to win the ultimate war within our minds and conquer challenges on the battlefield and on the home front, which is a big way we frame it up with the military. Then you're able to help people go next level. And again, I feel so blessed to work with some of the most elite performers in the world, and to help prevent suicide, which again, you look at the catastrophic number of suicides in the US military, it's heartbreaking. And of course, I've experienced my own challenges, and we've been blessed to hear from a number of people in our community that for whatever set of reasons, we were able to create hope. Individuals who didn't know if they wanted to live another day found us, found some meaning, found some purpose, and we built the scaffolding to go up. So being able to connect and meet people wherever they're at, and build that scaffolding for some and that next level trajectory for others, I believe that this protocol is one of the most powerful ways to do it. And again, off the bumper sticker, forging anti-fragile confidence, where truly that wind fuels our fire. So the quick practical exercise to get some clarity, then you all will go deep into it. Who are you and what do you do when you're at your best? So the heroic workshop instructors that will walk you through is, all right, you did that. That was amazing. Congratulations. Feast on that hero bar. You embodied these virtues, right? And who were you? What were you doing that allowed you to achieve that? Because guess what? Not complicated. If you can do it in the past, then you can do it again, but you need to show up and act like that best version of yourself. But knowing who you are and what you do when you're at your best, that's your protocol. The simplest way to do it when I do a talk is do and don't. Get a piece of paper out, draw a line down the middle, do, don't. What did you do when you're at your best? What did you not do when you're at your best? Circle one thing that if you started doing it would most change your life. If you stopped doing it would most change your life. Let's go. We've got the workbook. We're coming out with the Arete workbook. I think there's like 101 roughly. Other people came up with workbooks for our book, Arete. Awesome. All right, let's go. We're coming out with ours soon. We've been kind of busy, but it will have 212 degrees, 212 tools in the context of a workbook to help you move from theory to practice. We're really excited about that. And when we do these workshops, isn't that going to be cool? I'm super fired up. Again, bless Michael and the team for all the hard work behind the scenes. But number one, start and stop is what we do. And again, you guys are going to go through it. Now, one of the frames I got, Josh Waitskin. Looking at my second brain to see if I was going to remember who it was. Josh Waitskin, the great chess prodigy who's now a world-class martial artist, says, you got to make your prior best your new baseline. You got to make your prior best your new baseline. So if you did those things in the past when you were dominating and you didn't do other things, the question is, why did you stop doing the great things? And why did you start doing the things you know don't work for you? It doesn't make any sense. Quit giving away your gains. right? Now, the amateur does something until they can get it right. Then they get bored with it and like, man, whatever, who needs to do that more? That's boring. The professional, the elite performer, does it until they can't get it wrong. And there's a big difference there. I mean, this is the difference between mediocrity and excellence. And General Fenton said in the early part of the day, we relentlessly train, special forces operators, we relentlessly train over and over and over again until we never get it wrong. We don't do it until we can get it right. We do it until we can't get it wrong. That's our protocol. I mean, at the end of the day, this is the Heroic app. Is it boring? Yeah, it is. You know, is it absolutely life transforming? Yeah, it is. When I shared this slide with the U.S. men's national soccer team, Greg Berhalter on the left there, told me, dude, that idea right there is it. How do we get, and one of the guys asked the question, hey, how do we do that? What's this? What's that? And again, this is the entire point of our work, to take anti-fragile confidence off the bumper sticker, and I do what I say I will do. And I know who I am at my best, and it's this, and my energy, my work, and my love. And I do it especially, most importantly, when I don't feel like it. Then we're lifting real weights and getting stronger in the life gym. That's 1 through 5. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Anything you want to reflect on there, Mike? It's kind of fun to have you up here. Usually, by the way, when I film these in the studio on the 101s, I do one idea, right? And then I'd be like, all right, cool, take a break, look at my notes, take a sip of water, and I'd come back for the second idea. So we're having fun here. This is good.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll actually take a picture of your notes, and we'll see if we can get copies for everyone to see that top level page that you can take home. And those on live stream, we'll upload it to a PDF. I love all the bits so far, defining everything, foraging everything. Chris, again, it was a funny, thinking about the checklist for the pilots. And also recognize that, Chris, your moment of heroism came from not following the checklist, right? From making an intentional decision of, no, you know what? I'm gonna stay in here. The checklist is saying I got to eject, I got to get out of here, but I'm gonna stay in here and try and do something different and save the plane. So having these checklists are important, right? We want to have our protocol. I do what I say I will do. I do what I say I will do. I do what I say I will do. But we also want to have that dynamicism of, there are times when the moment asks us to do something differently. That we are only going to know that if we know what our checklists are and we know what the structure is, and we built that foundation of, I know what I can do moment to moment to moment to moment to moment.
What a great distinction, dude. I love that. And then that then becomes on the checklist.
Yes.
So then the checklist includes, what does this moment need from me? What's important now? And that willingness and ability to maintain the flexibility. Brilliant. Love it. And you?
Activate. Just notice too, right? Like, who here was activated the entire time? Switch, flip, boom, best posture. Yeah, you probably were. Octavio probably was. We had a couple. But like, right, that process of constantly is coming back, training that relentlessly until we can't get it wrong. So again,
Brilliant.
Continue to do so. Fire it up, 6 through 10.
Let's stand up too. Stand up, shake it up, and then reset. Again, every 30 minutes, 15, 20, 30 minutes of science says simply standing up. Joan Vernikos, who was at NASA when we landed a man on the moon, she was the scientist studying the effects of going to the moon and living in an environment without a gravitational pull. Unbelievably sweet woman who talks about the importance of movement and having even that simple standing up resets your metabolic biochemistry, et cetera, to give you more energy. So perfect. Please sit again. We will proceed. Halfway done, we're gonna dominate the. Thank you, brother. You're gonna have that done by the time we're there. So we're looking at the high level, right? Defining some terms, what it means. Now the question is, well, what do you want? But not what do you want. I want to know what you really, 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 really want. And it's a playful little phrase, but I mean it earnestly. This is every morning, if you follow along on social, I go to our database of quotes, all of which I personally typed out and our team put in, and I grabbed some. This morning, one of the quotes I picked was from Tom Morris. Again, PhD in religion and philosophy from Yale, taught at Notre Dame for decades, was their most popular teacher. He says, without a target to shoot at, our lives are literally aimless. Without something productive to do, without a positive goal and a purpose, a human being languishes. And then happened to be in the same, different category, but same session this morning. If one does not know what port one is sailing to, no wind is favorable, Seneca said 2,000 years ago. Then you got Mary Oliver there on the right. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? We have that on in our bathroom, in our kitchen. We've got this, window that looks out into the kind of the back of our property. That's right there above the sink. So Aristotle and Sonia agree. Happy people have targets. They have goals. They have projects. We are teleological. Telos means target. Everything in our app, you notice it's a target. If you look at I don't talk a lot about our heroic icon, right? That you all are wearing if you're wearing the t-shirt. I'm wearing an Arete right now, but I'm looking down at it on my arm. The heroic mark, does anyone know what the heroic mark is? Yeah, it's the most caught point in an archer's pre-release moment. It's the arrowhead aiming at a clear target. And the goosebumps, there's a lot of reasons we did that. Apollo was the patron god of philosophy in the ancient world. Apollo was an archer. So that represented the philosopher, the wise human being, has targets. So the question is, what are yours? And this, again, is something we're really committed to helping you get more clarity on at that next level. Very importantly, rubbed up against reality with the next slide of what's surprise. So Emerson, are you in here, buddy? Did you walk back out? Oh, that would have been fun. So Emerson and I, every single time we go out and I'm taking him, whether it's a long weekend road trip or I'm just going for a day-long chess tournament, we get out of our property, the gate closes, we're driving down a little road before we get to the main road. What do you want? First question I always ask him, hey, buddy, what do you want? What do you want in your life? Hey, buddy, let's go, hero. We got a special guest. We have an extra mic?
There was one.
Let's go. Bring that up. I want to. Yeah. Look how tall this guy is. You kidding me? You cool? You cool helping out? Is this thing working?
With what?
With me.
Sure.
So hold that kind of close to your mouth.
Okay.
All right. So I was just telling him, when we go out in a chess tournament, we drive out the gate. We're just turning right on that street, right? Before we get to the main street.
Mm-hmm.
What do I ask you?
Oh, before the tournament?
Yeah. We're driving.
Oh,
First.
what I want?
There you go. Thank you. You were a little nervous too, weren't you? Yeah. So I ask you, what do you want? Right? And what do you tell me?
I want to win.
You want to win? Yeah. And I say, awesome. What else do you want?
What?
Yeah. Well, you give me different answers. Different times. You give me different answers.
Depends on the tournament.
It depends on the tournament. But I say, oh, and then you'll give me different answers. I want to be happy. You've said to me, right?
Yeah. Once.
Yeah. Once. It's a great answer. And I say, all right, well, is there anything else that you want? Like you're really excited about right now? A big goal you have in your life?
Become a great master.
You want to become a grandmaster. Oh, that's a really exciting target. And then I say, well, look, I heard that the science of goal setting is you got to be specific. So by when do you want to be a grandmaster?
15.
By the time you turn 16, so by the time you're 15.
Yeah.
You think you can do that?
Definitely.
I think you can too. And then we walk through. All right, is it going to be easy?
No.
How are you going to do it?
Hard work and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. What are the cornerstones of? Do you remember the cornerstones of the pyramid? We haven't talked about them in a while.
Like having fun doing, like having fun.
Exactly. Enthusiasm. You love what you do and you work hard, right? Yeah. John Wooden's, base of his pyramid, right? For competitive greatness. And this kid loves the battle. I was not like him at 11. Let's just say that. But then we talked about the fact how important it is to have a target. Remember? And I talked about an archer.
Yeah.
And I said, can an archer hit a target if they haven't set it?
No.
It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
You may hit something, but you can't hit a target by definition unless you've set the target, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I had on the slide. How cool is that? I get to do it with you. I love you, buddy.
What are you doing?
Anything else you want to share?
No.
Send him some love. This kid is just so good. All right. Thank you, buddy. I may call on you. We got both of them running back there. How sweet is he?
That is a heroically confident mind.
Let's go. I'll tell you what, that kid did not need to have what we're talking about right now. Alexander and our joke is, God, I wish we were our parents. That would have been awesome. Growth mindset. Like, I don't need to teach him the difference between fixed mindset. And again, I've said this in different contexts, but given what just happened there, the number one thing that I have done, that I have personally done, and Alexander's done, the things, Carol Dweck, growth mindset, self theories, and mindset are the two tied for first books that I have leaned on for parenting. And her number one tip is you need to, when you face challenges, rub your hands together and say, I love challenges, and really get that dynamic. But then always praise effort, never praise talent, ever. So yeah, Emerson may have a quick mind is how we frame it up, that kind of works well with chess, but it's the effort that counts twice, to go Angela Duckworth. So it's not you're a good chess player. It's I really appreciate how hard you've worked and that you've done this, and always celebrating the effort. And then the winner learn, and his speed with which he alchemizes losses. I'll do a +1 on it soon. Phil, we were talking about different things, and Emerson came up and celebrating him. And he's like, you know who the best practitioner of this stuff is? And I'm like, who? He's like, Emerson? He's just, this is just his embodiment. He said, how does he respond to loss? And I say, you know what? That's the thing I'm actually most proud of in him is he's like, it sucks, for 3 seconds, he's like, it's just a bummer. But the speed with which he turns it around and truly gets something out of it is extraordinary. And Phil said, what's interesting is he once worked with either an acting coach or a director who could tell you who the star was going to be based on how they dealt with auditions. So one of the hardest things for an actor is to go to an audition with all these other people that are goosebumps. You're just being judged ruthlessly, right? But it was the speed with which the individual could alchemize, not getting the part that the acting coach / director, I can't remember which, just knew who was going to be a star. The star was the one who could turn it around incredibly quickly. And again, you do that through the past, through the present, through the future, through the intense trust, through the little marginal gains you get by doing what you say you will do. So there you go. So interesting here. So we're talking about targets, right? To bring it back to focus. Science says high, hard goals are what you want. 50-50 is kind of what the goals most people are comfortable setting. Bob Rotella talks about this. That's not greatness. If you got a 50-50 shot, okay, good luck with that. You got to find the right stretch point, and it's different for all of us. And we're going to help you get there this weekend, and we'll talk about it briefly now. You got to whoop it, but you got to dream. You got to wave a wand and say, what do I really, 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 really want? Because that's what's going to force you and challenge you to truly activate and be your best self. Now, Caroline Adams Miller, how many of you are familiar with her and her work? She is awesome. I have a new note coming out on one of her books, which is my all-time favorite positive psychology book that no one's heard of, but it's phenomenal. She has a new book coming out this fall called Big Goals. And I'm honored that she invited me to write the foreword to the book. Really excited. And it's going to be the book on the science of goals. There really isn't a great book. Just like James Clear's Atomic Habits is kind of the book on habits. We'll see where hers are. His book is just insane, but I'm really excited about her book, Big Goals. But the idea here is high and hard. You need to set those goals high and hard. Becoming a grandmaster by the time he's 16, we've talked to enough individuals to know his coach and others. It's not sending someone to Mars, but it's high and hard. And with that level of, and it's 5 years from now, and I always do it. I'm like, all right, well, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Right? So you got 20, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. There's 3,000 grandmasters. It's been done before, right? No, actually, there's only 2,000 grandmasters. And a lot of guys have done it at that age, younger. He's only been at it for 18 months, right? Which is years less than the kids he's competing against now. But this is what we can do, and you're going to have to pay the price, which is the next slide. But high, hard goals. We want to help you find them that really push you to be your best. Energy, work, and love. So we're going to talk about your big 3 wigs, wildly important goals. Adam, where's Adam? Adam, dude, I read your post, but I really read it this morning. So when I do my morning commitment, I check my aura scores. I'm dark mode, right? I check my aura scores, and then I use my bat phone to go onto our app, right? I do my quotes, and then I'll post them on the social. Not every morning, because sometimes I don't want anything in my head other than what I'm going to focus on. But more often than not, I'll check out who just posted in the last one or two and try to add some love. It's one of my target swipes. Reconnect with our community and celebrate. Literally, target swipe, let's go. More like twinsies, you know? He's posting up his quotes and he's doing this, and I'm like, let's go, bro. Every morning when I'm loving yours or firing it up or whatever, that's what I'm thinking. But this morning I read your post. And the beauty with which, and let's highlight his post, the beauty and the clarity and the power with which you articulated you at your best, who you were committed to being, and your wildly important goals was deeply inspiring for me. It led me to change my first page of my journaling and do the math on, because you want to celebrate your, is it 50th anniversary with your wife? Yeah, so 50th, my 51st, but I hadn't concretized the date of when I will celebrate my 51st wedding anniversary with the same clarity I had January 1st, 2051. So I did that this morning, inspired by you, and the clarity with which you walked through this and set up your big three wildly important goals was really inspiring for me. I just want to celebrate you for that. And then again, the whole team and everything that you guys did. But bless you, man. And thanks for making me better. So we'll share that. You all will see it. But the basic thing is, here are my hero bars, the things he's most proud of: energy, work, and love, right? And these are my wildly important targets. And if I can do that, then if I live in integrity with my ideals and I do what I say I will do, then I can have intense trust and I'm going to have a shot. I'm not guaranteed at any of this, but I am going to work my protocol so I have the best shot and ruthlessly focus on the process, especially, by the way, when things aren't going the way that I want. To be able to endure the inevitable gap between your inspiration and the actual outcome is obviously what it's all about. Now, moving along, wave the wand. What do you want? Then you need to know what price you will need to pay, who you will need to be. So the other set of quotes happen to perfectly fit here. These are from this morning too. Martin Luther King, first quote I saw: courage. Talking about a heroically confident mind. Courage was the virtue I wanted to get clarity on. Human progress, he says, Martin Luther King Jr., is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. And this is why I'm so blessed to be here with you, the passionate concern of dedicated individuals. But we have to embrace the struggle. You have to be willing to pay the price. Now, Martin Luther King paid the ultimate price. His thank you note was a bullet. My heroes, I look at my heroes. We're going to talk about this at the end of the talk. Abraham Lincoln, same consequence. Gandhi, same consequence. The ultimate price. These men and many women obviously willing to pay. Orison Swett Martin, who I'm going to talk about later too, another quote: believe with all your heart that you will do what you were made to do. It's when I do my 4 quotes, mantras at the end of the, and if I wake up in the middle of the night, I often put that one in the pole position, and then a Michael Singer quote in the end. And then you got Michelangelo. The great danger for most of us, not all of us, most of us, is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it's too low and we reach it. So again, high, hard goals, right? So you whoop it, we'll do this, wish, outcomes, obstacles, plan. Obstacles, every time I do this, and I have done this over 1,000 times, almost certainly. I have done this relentlessly. Any single time I'm feeling a little bit wobbly or I want to get real next level clarity, I ask myself, what do you want? Wish, boom. All right, I want this. Why do you want that? Outcomes, all right. And it's 2 or 3 words. It takes me 30 seconds, 60 seconds. What are your obstacles? Maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes if I'm going deep. And what's your plan? I always write in my principal obstacles, fear and laziness. It really captures everything. If you're honest, there are 2 reasons you are not where you want to be, and there are 2 reasons why you may not get where you want to go. And it's fear and laziness. You don't have the courage to get uncomfortable and to exit your comfort zone, and you're lazy. You don't show up and do the things you know you could do. So am I. So I can say that with moral authority because I'm an expert at the same subject. Yet, we need to have that activation, 212, 451, 2000, and realize that this isn't a dress rehearsal. Now, you got to know the price you will need to pay. Now, I have goosebumps as I start to say that. Like, truly, you want that? What price will you need to pay? And then you need to at least 10x it. I talked about this last night with Alexander next to me and Michael on the other side of me. The two people I love the most in the world, by the way. I get emotional because Alexander is doing the meditation, right? And Michael's sitting to my left and I grab her leg and I'm squeezing it, giving her some love and celebrating while she's doing it. And then I'm like, wow, I love her, and then Michael's sitting there next to me. I said, I almost squeezed his leg too. I paused on the squeeze. I'll do it now. I love you, man. But we've paid a price, This doing heroic 10 times harder already. And it's going to be 10 times harder for us trying to lead our movement, and I shared the story of William Damon, the world's leading scholar on moral development. Purpose. Check out all the notes on his books on purpose. He's at Stanford, 70-something-year-old man. He is a saint in my mind, just a wonderful human being and a sage. So blessed to have him as a mentor. Reached out to him when I founded Heroic, along with a number of other individuals, and sought his guidance. The hero going on a quest. Let me go to my guides. And Professor Damon, what's the one thing at the end of our conversation? I always ask my guides, my coaches, what's the one thing? Fill every one of our conversations. What's the one thing you want me thinking about between now and the next session? Someone else asked me, how do you prepare for Phil? I said, I prepare for Phil by doing what he told me to do and what we agreed I would do between one session and another. And of course, I do other things. But I asked Professor Damon, what's the one thing you want me to have in mind? This is days after I had the vision for Heroic, right? And he paused and he thought about it, and you could tell he was thinking about it, and told me two things. He said, first, all of my best ideas have been rejected. And again, I made the qualification last night, feels like a month ago, that not all of your ideas that are rejected were your best ideas. You will have bad ideas that are rejected and should be rejected. So I'm not saying that because you're getting rejected means it's a good idea. No, that may mean it sucks. But you got to have the courage to know when it is a good idea and go experiment and get the data and evolve it. And then he said, what changed my life and what was prescient is, he paused and he said, and this is going to be a lot harder than you think. Everything that's worth doing is going to be harder than you think. And I love him, and that wisdom. And I really, really, really want you to feel that, because what's important is when I experience that, I think something's wrong with me. Right? So when we experience our inevitable hardships, and there's the big challenges, then there's the day-to-day, which we're going to talk about in a moment, challenges I face every single day, that you face every single day. But when we don't remember that it's supposed to be hard, you think something's wrong with you. Another one of my coaches, Steve Chandler, who I worked with for years before Phil Stutz, said, it's not because you're you that you're experiencing this, it's because you're human. And that was such a powerful distinction for me. Self-compassion 101. You need to embrace common humanity, which I'm going to end with our heroes and remembering the pain they experience. And then, of course, you need to be nice to yourself. You need to have mindfulness of when you're not doing those things. And then you need to change the behavior that's leading to the shame that's starting to creep in. But you got to know the price. You got to 10x it. The ultimate price, close the gap. You got to pay that. The pain of regret versus the pain of discipline, Jim Rohn says. You're going to need to pay one or the other. One comes in tons, the other comes in ounces. Your choices matter. Become who you are destined to be in your big three. Who will you need to be? And then we move on to number 8 after Michael. You going to share something?
Stand. Breathe. Smile. Give them high fives.
And action. So now we know what we want. We know the price we need to pay. Then we need to know what's important now. Activate. We know what we want, what we really, really, really want. We know the price we need to pay. We whoop it, and then we win it. So after I whoop, then I write do, win. What am I going to do? Win, win, win. What's important now? We know the soul force equation is energy, focused on what's important now, not once in a while, but to the power of consistency. I'm not going to bore you with that math as we wrap this thing up. What's important now? David Reynolds, now we need to see it done. Now we need to see it done. Now we need to see it done. The Navy SEALs like to say in the fog of war, the chaos of war, which is a literal and metaphorical useful tool for us in the fog of our own inner war in our head, you got to simplify the battlefield. You got to have front sight focus when you feel overwhelmed. You got to focus on the next evolution in buds. You can't extend your time horizon to, oh my God, all the pain I'm going to have to experience in order to fulfill this. You got to know the price, but then you got to be willing to pay it. Then you just need to chip away. Now what's important? What do I need to get done? Build that momentum. Don't overwhelm yourself with all the things that are coming downstream. Joe DeSena says the same thing. He's running 100 miles, whatever he's running. He's thinking about the next telephone pole. Next telephone pole, next telephone pole, next telephone pole. What's important now? The dishes are important now, Byron Katie says. There's only one thing to do right now, and just decide. Of course, there's 100 things you could do. Decide. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. That's my first page of notes. The heroic instructors saw this. We've shared it, I think. Maybe we can share this as well for those who didn't get it yet. My first page of notes, 7.5 years ago with Phil Stutz, the laws of action. Speed is a force. And by the way, it's the speed with which you do the turnaround that's the most powerful act of creation. How quickly can you turn it around and practice your philosophy and spiral up, evolve, using that challenge as true fuel? But then he said, if you wait between the moment of inspiration, and I'm not talking manic, silly, ungrounded. I'm talking you whooped it, you know the price, you're grounded, you're well rested, and you know this is what you need to do. And then you wait, and then you wait, and then you wait, and you don't take action. Literally, first thing I wrote down, literally, goosebumps, on January 13, 2017. Action, rules of action, speed, conceive to action. Do it now. And then I wrote, and this is the emphasis that I want to make on this page. Your confidence erodes the longer you wait to take action. So the longer you wait to do the thing you know you should be doing, the more you know you aren't doing what you got to do. And there's that gap. And the more your confidence erodes. We could talk about that single page for a weekend. Number 9, past versus present tense. Isaiah, Nat came out to visit me. We've got some stuff in our barn, you know, these things and whatever is kind of stored in our barn. So Nat and Isaiah come out on Monday, and we go on an awesome trail walk. 2 of the coolest people on the planet. Where are you two? Bless you. Yeah. Our team is just so cool. We'll celebrate them throughout the weekend, but you know, we're doing a trail. We got a little half-mile loop, as you know, if you've been following along. And at the end of it, basically, we've got this tree that I use as a pull-up bar. Both of them bang out perfect form burpees. I'm like, wow, nice work. Blessing my tree bar pull-up thing, right? And then Isaiah, who's one of the most thoughtful, beautiful human beings. If you've interacted with him, you know this. Just gives me this really beautiful, thoughtful thank you. And he thanked me for doing what I did and making the hard decisions to exit my comfort zone and to do what I felt called to do in order to create the circumstances that allowed him to join our team, where he feels so purpose-driven. Gets me emotional, right? Beautiful appreciation, heartfelt. I felt it. And I thanked him for it. And every single verb he used to describe what I did was past tense, right? So it was, thank you for in the past, 20 years ago you did this, 10 years ago you did that kind of thing, 5 years ago. And I have goosebumps again, and I laughed, and I said, dude, every verb you used was past tense. I'm doing it. I did it yesterday. I did it this morning. I'm not exonerated. I'm going through pain, uncertainty, hard work, constant work right now. So past versus present tense is a really important thing that we look at people we admire and we think they figured it out. They're done. No one is exonerated, period. No matter how much they Photoshop their Instagram posts, they're not. We love pain, uncertainty, and hard work. We love pain, uncertainty, and constant work. This is the wonderful graphical representation. Why? Again, that sounds nice, right? Bumper sticker. Yeah, I love pain, uncertainty, hard work. Why do we want to actually love pain, uncertainty, hard work? That's another mantra of mine. Because our infinite potential exists outside of our comfort zone. And by definition, I don't care how evolved you are, you may have expanded your comfort zone quite dramatically, but there's still always something on the other side of it, just as our universe is somehow expanding at some insane rate. Our infinite potential exists outside of our comfort zone. And by definition, that feels uncomfortable when we exit it. So bring on the poo, bring on the puke, right? We love pain, uncertainty, hard work, and let go of the shame, by the way. So your mantra becomes not, why is this happening to me? But this is a reverse indicator that I'm doing it right. And anytime we get the nerd emoji, we're winning. So there you go. Remember rule number 1, it's supposed to be challenging. Check me out. I'm going next level. I didn't know there was a dragon emoji, but there is. Dragon versus lizard. You're not sidestepping lizards on a hero's journey. You are battling dragons. You get scars from those dragons. You wear those scars like medals. Your pain, your uncertainty, your hard work, your poo, your puke, those are reverse indicators. They're not signs you're doing it wrong. They're signs you are doing it right. You're a hero on a quest. Be like George. Connect with your buddies. Connect to your own internal wisdom, your ultimate guide, which is your daimon, and do what you need to do. 10th and final big idea for the +1. Tell me who your heroes are. Another exercise that we do at the workshops that you all will do is, who are your heroes? We'll do a beautiful meditation with you. This is a slide that LeBaron sent to me after she went to a workshop last weekend. She said, dude, my preparation is all heroic, you know? She had something else going on. Mother's Day, celebrating her mom for being her hero. Sent me a picture of that card. Tell me who your heroes are, Warren Buffett says, and I'll tell you who you'll turn out to be. Now that's amazing. That's making it into my new keynote, or next keynote. 7 objectives: ancient wisdom, modern science, practical tools. We know the game. We forge anti-fragile confidence. We optimize our big 3. We make today a masterpiece. We master ourselves. We dominate our fundamentals. Why? So we can activate our superpowers. You all will go through this exercise, and you all know the soul force, the moral charisma. Gandhi named it. Martin Luther King talked about it. Some of my heroes include Aristotle. We're going to hang out in your Lyceum, man. That's going to be fun. He mentored the guide to Alexander the Great. Got Epictetus, you got Aurelius, etc. So who are your favorite heroes? Not going to do that now. We'll do that soon. Number 1, number 2. It's my belief that you, at your best, are your own idiosyncratic expression of the qualities you most admire in the individuals you most admire. And heroic leadership is you activating your heroic potential in service to something bigger than yourself so you can serve your family and your community. So tell me who your heroes are, then cook some hero bars with them is the point of this section. So we've got a heroic portrait of Lincoln based on that picture. Anytime I am up in the middle of the night, I think of Abraham Maslow up in the middle of the night. How many of you know the story I'm going to share right now? Cooking hero bars. Abraham Maslow, unbelievable thought leader, beautiful human being. He would go through the phases in his life when he was seeking out of his comfort zone, trying to figure out a new theoretical framework that he was going to share with the world. He'd be nauseous, he'd be anxious, he'd have insomnia. And his beautiful wife, bless my beautiful wife, would tell him, something good must be cooking, Abe. What a frame. He's anxious, he's nauseous, he has insomnia. And his wife has the wisdom to tell him, something good must be cooking on the other side of this. Something good comes. Alexander shared a story last night. I talked about it, my own messes. Now, I go through this all the time. All the time. Alexander's always there. We got this. You're good. Something good must be cooking. That's what I'm thinking about anytime I'm facing, in my light moments, anytime I'm facing my challenges. I'm cooking hero bars with Maslow. Then I think of Abraham Lincoln. I love Abraham Lincoln. I admire him deeply. Orson Swett Marden says, no Civil War, no Lincoln. Now, no one wishes for the Civil War. No one wishes for the challenges that we see in our society today, but they're present. No Civil War, no Lincoln. He needed that heroic challenge in order to show up as his activated heroic self. But if you look at the picture there, look at that man. Now, that guy's not looking at his HRV and saying, I got to slow down. Now, again, and I want to emphasize, we train our recoveries. We train our recoveries. And we know when we get out of the bubble wrap and we do what Chris Duhon did, which is, you know what, I might die by making this decision. And that's exactly what I'm here to do. Navy SEAL guy I'm going to tell you about in a second, I said, what do you look for in your candidates? He's like, man, I said, I know you've been asked that, I don't know how many times, right? But I want to know, what do you look for? He said, you know what? Yeah, that's the question, you know? He said, you know what? It isn't what I'm looking for, because everybody has, per se, everybody has it. I believe everybody has it, full stop. And he's a spiritual man, and he has a faith tradition that confirms that belief for him. I believe everybody has it. Now, some people have expressed it more than others, and our crucible that we put our aspiring seals through brings it out in them. And you see who has it in the moment where it counts or not. But he said the thing that we are looking for more than anything is selflessness. We want to push them to the brink, but we want to see them live for something bigger than themselves. In that moment, they will endure the pain that we're putting them under and show us that they will do that when it matters most. And there's a word for selflessness, and the word is love. This is the hero's secret weapon. So I look at this picture, I look at the weight that he carried and his heroic sacrifice and willingness to endure what he endured and to look like that. And that's what I have in mind as I'm cooking hero bars. And that's what I want you to have in mind when you're thinking of your heroes. Look underneath. Whether it's Martin Luther King or Gandhi or anybody you admire, Eleanor Roosevelt, one of my heroes, Helen Keller, Florence Nightingale, put in whoever you want to put into it. You, at your heroic best, looked like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, train your recovery and be willing to do what you need to do when it needs to get done. I also have on my desk, and now we're concluding, this is Mr. Rogers. How many of you know what I'm going to share right now? I love you guys. It's so good. Mr. Rogers. He's been doing Mr. Rogers' neighborhood for decades. Took a little break, came back. Writes to himself. And the documentary on Mr. Rogers is phenomenal. One of my all-time favorite documentaries. He says to himself, and I framed this and it's on my desk. I sent one to Cal Newport. It's in his study. Am I kidding myself that I'm able to write a script again? Am I really just whistling Dixie? I wonder. If I don't get down to it, I'll never really know. Why can't, I love that he misspelled it with his typewriter. Why can't I trust myself? Feel his pain. Feel the hero going through the pain, the uncertainty, the constant work. Really, that's what it's all about. That and not wanting to go through the agony of creation, all caps, after all these years, and it had been decades at this point. It's just as bad as ever. I wonder if every creative artist goes through the tortures of the damned trying to create. Oh, well, the hour cometh, and now is when I've got to do it. Get to it, Fred. Get to it. All caps. It breaks my, I got Fred on my wall. Encouraging me to be the man that I aspire to be, that I fall short on more often than I like to admit. Be that guy. And remember this, my hero struggled. Get to it, Fred. Get to it. But don't let anybody ever tell anybody else that it was easy. It wasn't. April 1979. He's like 50 years old or something like that. 2 or 3 weeks later, he says, handwriting. It wasn't easy, but it was good. The 5 new scripts about schools are nearly complete, and I can see how helpful they can be. This I must remember. This we must remember. Our heroes suffered. You are going to suffer. You need to be willing to pay the price. And when you feel it, alchemize it. Lift the weights. And then I'll kind of swap it. When I'm feeling the weight, I remind myself that I'm not alone. And then I get to the, just get to it, Brian. It's time to quit, get the clarity, get to it. Now is the time to do it. Then I slide Orison Swett Martin in front of it. Literally, these are from my desk. You can see the dust on this thing. I had to dust off. Most obstacles melt away when we make up our minds to walk boldly through them. The number of times, this was on my desk when we were going through our biggest challenge to date, which was the SEC ladder again, all resolved and all that stuff. But when we got that, boom, let's go. Boldly walk through those. And Orison Swett Martin lived in the era of Teddy Roosevelt, who was one of his heroes, and constantly talked about Lincoln. He's the one who said, no Civil War, no Lincoln. So again, there's a lot of coherence for me. Yogananda, Steve Jobs' spiritual advisor. He gave Yogananda's autobiography to everyone at his memorial service on their way out. That's how significant of an impact Yogananda made on Steve Jobs. I binged his stuff months ago, maybe a year or 2 ago now. Where's the time go? I don't know. Check out the notes. He says, study the lives of saints / heroes, to use our words. That which is easy to do is not the way of the Lord. That which is difficult to do is his way. St. Francis had more troubles than you could imagine, but he didn't give up. One by one, by the power of mind, he overcame those obstacles and became one with the master of the universe. Plus one. We know the price. We know what we really want. We know the price we need to pay. You tell me who your heroes are. And then I want you to tell me who you're going to call. So real quick, I'm hanging out with this guy who will remain anonymous because he's kind of a top secret superhero. And he walked me, just an amazing human being who is the same guy that shared what I already shared with you, right? He says, all right, he walks, these guys have gone through buds, you know, they're getting ready for Hell Week, which means they've already gone through hell. Now they're going through Hell Week. And he walks them through this beautiful 20-minute visualization. I mean, he's like, it's all senses, you know, and he has them imagine all the things that they've been through and all the things that they're going to go through and this and that and succeeding, getting to the point where, you know, I forget what the official term is, but everything's officially done, right? And then they call them to attention. They turn around, the American flag's there. They're like, boom, the class is closed with them successfully completing it, knowing they're on their way to earning their trident and doing what they aspired to do when they signed up for the Navy. You know, how long did it take you to get here? 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then he walks them through this beautiful exercise. And then at the end of it, he says, all right, he has them all feel it, you know, he's like, and he's funny about it. He's like, they're all, you know, crying, and it's just this amazing thing, you know, and it's great. He said, all right, who are you going to call? Who are you going to call? He's like, everybody's got one person they're going to call. You know, this, that. Of course, you're going to call, but who are you going to call? Right? Imagine making that call. And I'll tell you what, and he says, for most of these young men, it's their dad. He said, look, your dad went through more hell than you did. Wondering if you're going to get through it. They're sitting there rooting you on and, oh, you got this, you know. Who are you going to call? And then one of the main themes was, he says, we lie to young men. We don't tell them the truth. We don't tell them, hey, I'm going to love you. You know, of course, I'm going to love you forever. But he says, there are consequences to our action. And if you give up when things get hard, independent of the buds training, I'm going to be disappointed in you. I love you, son, and I will always love you. And if you fall short of what we know to be your best, I will be disappointed as well. And he says, we lie to our young men about that. And he's like, my job is to be honest with them about that and to let them know that their decision may consequences. So he has them, after making that call, they said, all right, rewind. You're going through Hell Week. It's hell. You've already been through it. And, you know, this happens, that happens, this happens. And you're remembering, you're forgetting your commitment. You forget this person that you want to call and make that right call to. And you ring the bell. And you do not complete what you set out to complete. So who are you going to call? You call the same person. You know, he's like, imagine that call. It's the same call. Which call do you want to make? And while he's going through it, they kind of got, he was doing his role, which was a certain role. And there's the other guys that are barking at him, you know? I mean, buds training is buds training, you know? And they're pushing them. And they're pushing them from love, you know? And it said, we want to push you to your edge and show you what you're capable of. But what he did while he was going through, who are you going to call? Who are you going to call? Reminding them of, let's go, push through this, push through this, push through this. So that's my question for you. If you were in that situation, who would you call? And which call do you want to make? And this brings us back to that wake up, not a dress rehearsal. And I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, we're not going to be perfect. But our decisions have consequences. Our choices we're making moment to moment to moment have consequences. That 212 degrees, 451 degrees, 2,000 degrees. Picture the individual for whom you're going to have that strength. Picture the people you want to celebrate with, you know? And I'm like, I want to make this guy proud. I want to make her proud. I want to make you proud. I feel, trust me, every single day, pain, uncertainty, hard work. Bring it on. I love it. This is what I train for. This is what I'm here to do. I want to be worthy of being in this position with you. I don't take that for granted. I want you to be in that position. And when we fall short, which we inevitably will, what do? We practice our philosophy. We use it as fuel. Perfect. 1, 2, 3. What was awesome? I went for it. What needed work? Oh, I could have done this a little differently. What am I going to do differently? Oh, we turn that around as fast as we can. I didn't do my best, and that's okay. Of course, I'm not going to all the time. But Seth Godin is the one who said, it's unfortunate. I turned 50 in 5 days on Wednesday. 50 is no joke. Where'd the time go? Wow. All right. It's unfortunate that I have wasted as much time as I have. The days, the weeks, the months, in some cases, the years of my life. We all have. Seth Godin, it's unforgivable to waste any more time. Get clear. Wake up. This isn't a dress rehearsal. With all that in mind, we'll make that sacred vow. So my sacred vow to you is, and I did this when all of you founding investors invested in Heroic. We made history, amazing. We'll do a brief history on Sunday. Bless all of you. And I needed to sign the documents that would, there were 2,431 founding investors in Heroic from 75 countries. Michael made the connection. He's like, was it really 2,431? Hands up if you know what the significance of 2,431 might be. Mr. Rogers, 143. Mr. Rogers weighed 143 pounds his entire life, right? So he would swim every morning. He'd get on the scale and he would weigh 143 pounds every single day of his life. Unbelievably disciplined man. And he was committed to that in part because that was his love note to his wife. 143, I love you. The very first thing that we designed, I haven't thought about this in a long time. I'll put it into the presentation next. The very first thing that we designed with MetaLab when we built our app, the very first code that we wrote in our app is 243. We love you. That's the cycle that goes, every single page that loads on our website, every single page that loads in the app initiates with that. Oh, shoot. So I'm sitting here, 2,431 investors from 75 countries, and all I got to do is click a button. And boom, the $5 million that was part of a $10 million fundraising we did to get this thing going was going to be official. I'm like, well, that's a big deal. Slow down. Don't just click that button and virtually sign the documents. Went on a walk, thought about it, and thought this is a sacred commitment right now. I have people from around the world believing in me and us and our team. So I wrote this sacred vow, and I'm sharing this here because this is what we're going to encourage you to create in your own idiosyncratic way. Now, this is very work-oriented for me, and there's a parallel love sacred vow for me that I commit to every morning in a simpler form. So I, Brian Johnson, absolutely and fiercely commit to, I typed this out, literally wrote it down, and I look at it every single day. I, Brian Johnson, absolutely and fiercely commit to honoring your investment in me and in Heroic by doing my best to make you proud to be a part of our movement. I hereby make a sacred vow to you and to everyone else in our community to honor my fundamentals and to practice my philosophy. Of course, I will not be perfect and I cannot promise any particular outcomes, and I will certainly make mistakes. But I promise you that I will show up day in and day out and do everything in my power to fulfill our mission to change the world, one person at a time, together, starting with you and me today, with love, wisdom, self-mastery, and courage. I say, heroes unite. Oh, that's the sacred vow. And I love seeing the version of me that underlined and circled that and feeling that love. Again, that's mine, not about mine, it's about yours. We'll help you craft that. That to me is the most important thing that's going to come out of that. And that's a very quick look at how to forge a heroically confident mind so you can activate your potential, fulfill your destiny, change the world with us. And one more thing before we have some Q&A. I know I went super long. Q Maui, you're welcome. It's been a while, one-on-ones, let's go. I need you to know that you, and I said this to our Heroic workshop instructors, you literally are the most important person in our movement. We don't do what we aspire to do without you, each of us, of course, but you showing up, being your best self. And it's why I work as hard as I do, and why we work as hard as we do. So it's time to change the world one person at a time, together, starting with you and me and all of us today. You may have heard me say it before, it's day one. We're all in. Let's go. And I will follow your lead, boss. I know I went long there. What are we going to do?
Well, goosebumpy tears. That was beautiful. We're gonna skip the Q&A for now. We'll have space later. We're gonna go for lunch. We will be back here at let's say, let's keep it, we'll go 75. So back here at 2 still. So you got some space. Have fun connecting, heading out to the different place wherever you feel inspired to get lunch. Heroic lunch. We had some playful jokes around less heroic food over the course of the past week. So have fun getting some great heroic lunches. We'll see you back in this space at 2. I think we got some tunes ready to dance it out.